The soul-destroying life. If there's one thing I've noticed about this life, and it's becoming painfully obvious, it is that the standard: you get born, you go to school, you grow up, you find a job, you get married, you have kids, you go to work day after day, paying your taxes, you come home, have dinner, watch the TV, so on and so forth. You get older, eventually you retire, eventually you need to move into a care home, you get drugged up to the eyeballs, so you sit there staring at the wall or out the window with a gormless look on your face, needing everyone to do everything for you, but at least you don't cause them a problem because you're drugged up. There seems to be a push in the whole society to follow that path. And what I've noticed is that if you stick to that path like glue, and it involves things like debt, university education, minimum wage jobs, overtime, or chasing for these high-powered manager executive type jobs where you need to trample on other people, you need to do unfair tactics, and if you're a sociopath or psychopath, then great, that is going to work well for you. What I've found is that if you follow that path, and that path is your goal, and you wish to do that, there's a part of you inside that thinks, I want a bigger house, faster car, more holidays, more stuff, more toys, then you will be more or less left to pursue that path by the system. But the minute you start deviating from that path, and the path doesn't just have to be a high-powered job, it can be a completely mundane, shelf-stacking, delivery driver kind of job. It doesn't matter. The system just wants you doing either something that bores and mundane, repetitive job, or a high-powered, stressful job, or something that involves lots of risk, like, you know, going into the military, fighting wars, killing other people, or being at risk of being killed by other people. There's something where if you're in a soul-destroying, boring job, that's okay. If you're in a high-powered, fuck everybody over job, that's okay. If you're in a job where you're at huge risk, or you create a huge risk to other people by your job, i.e. the military, then that's okay. Anything like this is okay, but the minute you go off track and do something like be a free spirit, what you're going to do? Well, I'm going to go and just explore the world. I'm going to sack off all this education, forget about the debt, and I'm going to live just on the bare minimum, and I'm going to be in nature. If you do try and live like that, the system will turn on you. But it's not just by the system. I don't just mean the government and its related agencies in whichever nation you live. I'm talking about things like your family and friends, and they will just make it increasingly difficult for you if you try and live like that. So, and it will be, it isn't usually in a physical way, so they don't physically push you or prevent you. It will be more a psychological. They'll try and work with your feelings, like, you don't want to be like one of those hippie type people. Oh no, have you heard this? He wants to be like it, you know. And no, I don't want to be like a hippie. I want to be a free, you know, whatever. And the more you try and deviate from this path that's laid out, the standard path that I said at the beginning, the more roadblocks keep getting thrown up. And I'm in my mid-30s now, and I've witnessed in my own life and that of others around me that the system people around me that are system all the way through and through, the ones that parrot what the system tells them without question and think that you're absolutely crazy and insane the minute you even so much as question one of the official narratives that the system puts out. Those types of people are completely left alone by the system, and by extension the people that are around them. Which leads me to the obvious question: are all the people that are around us the same as us, just trying to get along, and the reason that they get maybe awkward with you when you deviate from the path is that their own free will and their own brainwashing that is now saying these things to you? Or are they not like us, and that the people that get funny with us when, well, that's not the done thing, those types of people, are they something else that are almost like prison guards for the system, even though they don't wear a uniform, and they're actually our family and friends and neighbours and teachers at school and colleagues? So, you know what I'm saying. And this is going to sound completely crazy to some people, and I understand that, and to others you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But to those who this sounds completely crazy, I'd like to just say that if you have discovered certain truths or untruths in this reality, and it may be something like what happened on the east coast of America in 2001. That event that saw 3 big structures fall down in one day, allegedly on the back of 2 separate passenger planes. Well, for a certain, I'm trying to be a bit clever with my wording to not trip up any sort of, rhythmic algos, but if you can see through something like that, and you can see, well, this is obviously a lie and that obviously doesn't make sense, then you try and tell other people. You will have come across those that are able to listen and think, hey, yeah, that is a bit weird. But you will have also come across those who turn on you and get angry with you, and they don't argue with you to the point. They argue with you with things like, you're crazy to think that. Only stupid people think that. Oh, I suppose you heard this somewhere on the internet. As opposed to addressing the things like, well, yeah, what temperature does steel melt at? Well, it didn't melt, it got weakened. Okay, well, by how much is steel weakened at a certain temperature? Is it enough to cause a complete collapse? Or is it just like 2 or 3% and it wouldn't cause anything? If anything, 1 or 2 windows might have been bent out of shape, and therefore the window pane cracked. I mean, which was it? And to explore these things takes time and effort and research, and then you need to verify your research that you're not reading from somewhere that... And all of that just takes time. And so you will have experienced the people who have spent no time whatsoever looking into anything, who argue with you and who get nasty with you. And if you say, well, look, I'd like to try and prove it because there's this fact, they will cut you off and argue, and they will never, and this is another trait that they all seem to have, and by they, I'm talking about this group of people who are in our everyday lives who are not exactly like we are. One of their traits is they will never give you an inch on anything. So if you list 500 different points that are all wrong and lies, or couldn't possibly be, about any event that is in the official narrative, if you list 500 and by some miracle the person was to listen to you, they would never give you even one of those. They would argue and ridicule on every single point. So even if it was something as mundane as something like, well, the plane couldn't possibly fly as fast as it did at the altitude that it did, because all these pilots who flew that particular plane have all said it was 100 miles an hour over the maximum speed. It is not possible it could do that. And yet the official story says it did. And so, to me, that is an easy point to say, therefore, whatever the official story is, at least in that respect, is wrong. Did they get the timings wrong? That's another issue. Did they make it up altogether? That's another issue. But on that very specific point that the plane was here and then here at the times that they said, at the speeds, therefore, that they said, was not possible. And so anybody with a functioning brain would be able to say, right, I've heard all sides of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up for myself how fast the plane allegedly moved, and then I'm going to look up the model of plane, and then I'm going to look up what the maximum speed at that altitude of that plane is, and I'm going to put it all together for myself, and I'm going to see, does this person have a valid point or not? Are the pilots all lying or not? What about the official website of Boeing? What do they say about their own aircraft? And all of this would only take, with the internet, 5-10 minutes. And for once and for all, you could put to bed an issue one way or the other. So why does this huge group of people completely refuse to do this? And they won't give it to you either and say, I can't be bothered, I believe you. They will fight you tooth and nail. It's almost like there's this huge row of dominoes, and they need to put all their energy into preventing that first domino from tipping over, because if they allow you to tip that domino over in their mind, and by extension agree with you that that first domino has to fall, maybe they think then the rest of them will fall very quickly. I don't know. But they do it to the extreme where it becomes ridiculous what they're doing. And the more ridiculous what they're doing becomes, the more awkward they make it for you, as though to say, look, I'm your friend and everything, but if you're going to talk about this, I'm not your friend. So that it's like they're trying to emotionally manipulate you into not looking into it, certainly not saying anything, because it's like if one person gets horrible with you when you point out the truth, and then a second does, and then a third, maybe their goal as well is to put you off telling a fourth, fifth and sixth, because if some of the people around us are not like us, and some are, but you're going to run into an argument the majority of the time you say anything. Maybe their thinking is they can put you off saying it to somebody because at some point you're going to run into another person like us who will listen to what you've got to say and realise what you're saying is the truth. Because when people put out truth online, be it YouTube or wherever, I find it strange, and just ignore the censorship a moment, but just the truth in of itself. I find it strange how the majority of the people drawn to these videos appreciate what's said, put in some kind of constructive comment, put a thumbs up, whatever. They do this. So where's the 60-70% or whatever the number is of people that argue every point? They're not watching these. Now, yeah, you do get some comments and feedback, and I wonder who searches out something that they think is complete nonsense, watch that video, and then start writing personal attacks underneath in the comment. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, I don't believe in unicorns. Now, that isn't based on any research one way or the other. I just don't believe in it because I haven't seen any. It seems like a children's story thing to me. I could be proven wrong with the evidence if I was to look one way or the other. But the point is, I just don't believe in unicorns. So why would I type in unicorn videos on YouTube, look them up, see if anybody's making any videos in any kind of serious way, and then start writing nasty things in the comments section and clicking thumbs down? It makes no sense why I or anybody would do such a thing. I mean, think of one thing that you don't believe in. Why would you go look that up and start writing nasty? It just makes no sense whatsoever. At all. And once you start putting together all of these different aspects where things just... It's not just like a stupid thing where somebody's done something stupid because either they're not thinking straight, they're of low intellect, or maybe they've sold out and they're paid to lie, whatever. You know, that's like a separate issue. I'm talking about things where the reality itself just makes no sense, where even as it's presented to us, once we look into it a bit, it starts to fall apart. It's when you point that out and nobody else seems to realise it. That to me is like, when I say nobody else, people do, but it's very few and far between. And alright, I'm reasonably intelligent, but I'm not like Einstein level intelligence where like 99 out of 100 people around me are unable to fathom what I'm saying, and I know I'm not. And this is where I can only conclude that there is an aversion around us in seeking the truth, not because everybody is brainwashed and all the rest of it into the lies, although to an extent that is true. It's because, in my opinion, the people around us that cause us problems when we stray off the path, the people that argue with us all the time when we point out truths, are not like us, and they are like prison wardens whose only purpose and function seems to be to make our lives increasingly more difficult the more we stray from this path. And it's things like getting in your way when you're trying to walk along the path, getting you to do pointless little things that are just ridiculous, throwing you off by talking about pointless, mundane, oh, have you seen so... Just... And they do it more the more you're trying to deviate from this path of... And the path seems to be to destroy... The path they want you on seems to be to destroy your soul. They want you coming in from work, moaning, angry at the other political side. Whichever side you're on politically, they want you angry at the other side. Whichever sports team you support, they want a scandal somewhere. They want you angry at the government because they're wasting money and doing all this. They want you frustrated at the pointless, endless wars, the endless debt, and that they want you angry, frustrated, upset, pissed off, jealous, envy. They want it. And if you're living like that and going to a soul-destroying job, or a job where you're harming other people, or at risk of being harmed, that is what they want from you. And if you do that, it's like they got what they want from you. They're not going to encourage you to change what you're doing. They're going to leave you be. But the thing that frightens me is the people, and I don't know how many there are, that seem unable to see. It's like they're programmed to not see it. And yes, you can say, well, the TV and the flicker rate and years of propaganda, I get all of that. But even if that is true, that makes it difficult to initially get through to somebody. But once you're through, you're through. And even then they can see little things. And you can tell the difference in the people around you. If you speak to, I don't know, the 20 people that are closest to you, in whoever they may be, the 20 people that you would see most often, some, and it seems to be a minority, some of them will understand even if they don't believe you right off the bat, they will understand some aspect of what you're saying. But the majority will fight you tooth and nail, and they will carry on doing so until you conform back into this soul-destroying box of a lifestyle that they want you in. And that is what freaks me out, because it does, and because it seems like that we're all going down a path that is collectively already decided, because it's like you're the black sheep in this huge herd, and you can't steer the direction of the herd because the number of other sheep, even though you have control of your own legs and moving a little bit within the herd, the overall herd is going to ensure that you reach the outcome at the end of the lane that is already predetermined. That's what this seems to be like. And the more you try and tell the other sheep, look, we're being corralled towards this thing, this slaughterhouse, whatever, they're going to turn on you every single time you say that. And so it almost feels like the thing is so predetermined. This is, me thinking out loud now. It's like we're living a movie where we've been conned into thinking we've got free will, but in reality it is a movie and we are replaying a movie where the end scene has already been written and predetermined, and therefore the more we try and go off the script, the more the background characters are going to do what they must to put us back into script by making our life increasingly hellish until the point where we cannot continue, to ensure that we are in the movie, in the right place, at the right time, for the final scene. God damn it.